Hello there, everyone. I'm Barbara Dion, and welcome to the Story Beyond My Songs Weekend Update, where each week I shine a spotlight and tell the full stories on the most viewed legacy shorts that touched your hearts, sparked your memories, and got the most love from you, the viewers. This week, your views chose powerful tributes to four unforgettable icons of soul. Mary Wells, the First Lady of Motown, who left us far too soon. Cass Elliot, the voice that dreamed loudly. The Emotions, Chicago's Queens of Harmony. And Buddy Guy, Chicago's last blues king, still reigns. These are your picks, your choices. So if you haven't already done so, please make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I upload content. Let's get into the moments that made this week so special.
Nothing you can say can tear me away from my God.
Before Diana, before Martha, before Tammy, there was Mary, the original queen of Motown, whose voice helped launch a musical empire. Born in Detroit in 1943, she was just a teenager when she walked into Hitsville, USA, and changed everything. Today we honor the extraordinary Mary Wells on the anniversary of her passing. Armed with a demo and a dream, she caught the attention of Berry Gordy, and by 17, she was recording on the fledgling Motown label. With her warm, smoky tone and girl-next-door charm, Mary brought us songs like The One Who Really Loves You, Two Lovers, and of course, My Guy, the 1964 anthem that topped the Billboard Hot 100 and made Mary Wells Motown's very first superstar. That song, written and produced by Smokey Robinson, wasn't just a hit, it was a moment. One that carved her name in history and placed her at the top of the charts and the top of hearts. But behind the spotlight, Mary's story was filled with both triumph and tragedy. She left Motown in 1965 over a contract dispute, a bold move for a young black woman in the industry at that time. Though she recorded for other labels like 20th Century Fox and Atco, she never quite recaptured the glory of her Motown days. Still, her voice never faded, and her influence never left. In the late 1980s and early 90s, Mary was staging a modest comeback, performing in oldies reviews, reconnecting with fans, and showing the world that the First Lady of Motown still had it. But in 1990, devastating news came. Mary was diagnosed with laryngeal cancer of the voice box. For the woman whose voice once lit up radios across America, this was a cruel irony. She battled the disease bravely, but on July 26, 1992, Mary Wells passed away at the age of just 49. Too young, too soon, but not forgotten. Berry Gordy once said, Mary was a pioneer. She was our first big star. And it's true. There would be no Motown sound without the sweet, sultry tones of Mary Wells. So today we remember her not for how she left, but for what she left behind. Because every time a classic Motown record spins, every time a young girl dares to dream of stardom, Mary's spirit is singing right alongside them. Rest in heavenly peace, Mary Wells. Thank you for sharing your gifts. You are the original voice of Motown, and forever our girl.
Make your own kind of music, even if nobody...
You've got to make your own kind of music, sing your own special song, even if nobody else sings along. That voice, that spirit, that woman. On July 29th, we remember the incredible life and legacy of a voice that could fill a room and a soul that dared to dream in her own key. Today, we honor Cass Elliot on the anniversary of her passing. Born Ellen Naomi Cohen in 1941 in Baltimore, Maryland, she would become the powerhouse known as Mama Cass, a founding member of the iconic group the Mamas and the Papas. Their harmonies helped define the sound of the 1960s. Songs like Monday, Monday and California Dreamin' weren't just hits. They became anthems of a generation seeking freedom, love, and a little sunshine through the haze. But Cass was more than just a harmony. She was a force of nature. When the group disbanded, she stepped boldly into the spotlight, launching a solo career that would bring us unforgettable tunes like Dream a Little Dream of Me and Make Your Own Kind of Music. Songs that reminded us that being different isn't just okay. It's powerful. Cass once said, "If you believe you have talent, the next thing you must have is determination." Cass knew the uphill battles. She didn't fit the mold of the traditional pop star, but her voice, unmatched. Her presence, magnetic. Her heart, bigger than the stage she stood on. Tragically, on July 29, 1974, while performing in London, Cass Elliot passed away from heart failure at just 32 years old. The world lost a songbird, one whose wings were just beginning to soar solo. But her message lives on. Make your own kind of music. Sing your own special song. To every dreamer out there, Cass is still whispering, be bold, be different, be you, even if nobody else sings along. Rest in heavenly peace, Mama Cass. Thank you for sharing your own special song with the world. There's a kind of harmony that's divine, a sound so smooth, so spirit-filled, it becomes a part of your life. That was the sound of the Emotions. From the south side of Chicago, the Emotions were more than a girl group. They were a sisterhood of soul, a gospel-rooted, heart-hitting, joy-spreading phenomenon. Today, we honor Wanda, Sheila, Jeanette, and Pamela, better known as the Emotions. Wanda, Sheila, Jeanette, and later Pamela Hutchinson came straight out of a musical family. Their father, the Reverend Joseph Hutchinson, made sure the girls were grounded in gospel. They began as the Hutchinson Sunbeams, singing in church and on Christian radio. But once the world heard them, they became the Emotions, and emotions are exactly what they stirred. So I Can Love You, Don't Ask My Neighbors, Flowers, Best of My Love. These songs were diaries in harmony. When they teamed up with Maurice White of Earth, Wind and Fire, they created something magical. Best of My Love became a worldwide hit, topping the charts and winning a Grammy. But long before all that glitter, my father knew they were gold. I remember distinctly every time we would get in his car, we would be listening to the Emotions. There were the Spinners and Enchantment mostly. However, the Emotions definitely had a place in his heart. We even took a road trip from Chicago to Mississippi, and the Emotions were on constant loop. On this trip, we listened, we sang, we fell asleep, we woke up, we listened, and we sang some more. Outside of his own daughters, the Haynes sisters, the Emotions were his favorite female singing group. Whenever we would sing and harmonize an Emotion song, my dad would simply say, "Might nice." Chicago runs deep in the Emotion story, and eventually, so did I, sort of. Years later, I had the honor of meeting the group not once, but twice, once in Atlanta and again back home in Chicago. And seeing them in person, hearing those voices live, laughing with them, it wasn't just a moment. It was a memory my father would have absolutely cherished. It felt like I was standing in the presence of living history. Beautiful, vibrant, humble women who helped shape the sound of soul itself. And the story doesn't end there. I also had the opportunity to meet Keith Henderson, one of their producers. I'd actually worked with him prior to meeting the Emotions. Keith is a musical genius and Chicago legend in his own right. The connection deepened the experience, made it even more real. Hearing how the music was made, the stories behind the studio walls, it made me feel like I was walking the same hallways my father used to dream through. It was a full circle moment. From hearing and singing their records as a little girl in my father's car to standing face to face with the women whose voices shaped the soundtrack of my childhood, it was spiritual. It was soul deep. The Emotions are more than legends. They're legacy. Chicago gave them roots, gospel gave them wings, and they gave us sound that still soars. Whether it's that joyful scream at the start of Boogie Wonderland or the tender ache in Don't Ask My Neighbor, their voices still move us. And as long as they do, that love for music and for them lives on. So here's to the Emotions, to family, to Chicago, to the music that moves generations, and to those full circle moments that remind us music isn't just heard, it's felt.
You don't know why I love you like I do. I've only seen you.
Before Clapton, before Hendrix, and before Stevie Ray Vaughan, there was Buddy Guy, a blazing blues man with fire in his fingers and soul in every note. Please join me in wishing a very happy 89th birthday to Chicago blues legend Buddy Guy. Born in 1936 in Lettsworth, Louisiana, he would grow up to become a Chicago legend and one of the most influential guitarists in American history. Born George Guy, the world would come to know him as Buddy. Raised in the Deep South, he started out playing a two-string diddly bow made from wire attached to the side of his family's house. It wasn't much, but it sparked a fire. In the late 1950s, Buddy boarded a train for Chicago, following in the footsteps of blues guitarists like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. It wasn't long before he found himself on stage at Chess Records, jamming with the greats. But back then, his wild, electrifying style was considered too aggressive, too ahead of its time. What the suits didn't understand, the future legends did. Jimi Hendrix watched him closely. Eric Clapton called Buddy Guy his biggest influence. Keith Richards, Jeff Beck, and even John Mayer owe a piece of their style to Buddy's signature blend of deep feeling, ferocious bends, and that stone-crazy passion. Buddy Guy would go on to win 8 Grammy Awards, be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 2012, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama. Not bad for a kid from Lettsworth, Louisiana, who once played on borrowed strings. And of course, Chicago blues fans know if you want to see Buddy, you head to Buddy Guy's Legends. More than just a club, it's a living monument to the music that made this city sing. Buddy once said, "The blues is the foundation, and everything else is just the house built on top of it." And he's right. From the stage to the studio, Buddy Guy built a skyscraper of sound, with every guitar solo reaching into the heavens and every lyric grounded in pain, joy, and truth. So today, we salute a living legend. Happy 89th birthday, Buddy Guy. Thank you for making the blues live on, not just in Chicago, but around the world. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more stories beyond the legends that have shaped our lives. Until next time, keep the music alive by checking out this next video.